It's been my ambition for a while now to tell what I believe to be one of the greatest love stories of all time. And that is the story of Jefferson and the Constitution. I mean, I don't think I'm going too far to say that the Constitution was one of the great loves of Jefferson's life, along with agriculture, probably his wife at one point, Sally Hemings perhaps at another. But this story really has such a long experience, and what I really love about it is we have documentary evidence of when Jefferson and the Constitution met each other. And the funniest thing about it is that even though I would not hesitate to call this a love story, it wasn't exactly love at first sight. Now, when the Constitution was put together and when it was ratified, Thomas Jefferson was in Paris as the U.S. ambassador, and he's out there. And the first time he hears about the Constitution is when it's sent to him by his friend James Madison. Now, keep in mind, Thomas Jefferson and James Madison are like this, okay? That they do karate in the basement together. They bunk their beds. They both have a secret man crush on John Stamos. Step Brothers reference, if you're wondering. But Madison sends Jefferson the copy of the Constitution as it was put together in Philadelphia. And Jefferson really, it's just he has this very honest sort of look. And it's almost like Madison's like, here, here's my baby. After all, he's like the father of the Constitution, right? Like, ooh, look at little Constitution. Oh, Article 2, you look so cute. So Madison's like, hey, here's what we put together. TBH. Right. All right, and Jefferson, it's not like he looks at her and is like, dang! It's more of what I would believe to be really about a 6 or a 7. Now, this is a letter that you can look up on the internet, written from Jefferson to Madison, December 20th, 1787, from Paris. And Jefferson has a lot of good stuff to say about the Constitution. For example, he says he likes that the government can operate from day to day without the states having to be consulted, because under the Articles, the representatives to the Congress were appointed by the states, and they could be recalled by the states. And if they don't want to be recalled, they better make sure that the states like their votes and all that. So they were always having to go back and forth. So Jefferson said, I like that this government can operate day to day. I like that there's separation of powers, like the whole legislative, executive, judicial, Montesquieu, France, that's where he is, right? And he said, it's got some democracy, and that's good because the people are sovereign, but it doesn't have too much. I really like that, okay? And I like that the House originates taxation, because really people should have the right to be taxed by people who they elect directly. Taxation with representation. And when you think about this, Jefferson says, look, when it comes to this, she shares my values. And that's really one of the most important things in a love story is the sharing of values. And he says, I am captivated by the compromise of the opposite claims of the great and little states. The way that the Connecticut Compromise took the Virginia plan, the New Jersey plan, and put them together in a way that pleased the small states and the big states. And Jefferson says, I'm captivated. I'm mesmerized. Like, there are some ways that she really does it for me. Of course, this is a TBH, so Jefferson is going to say what he doesn't like, okay? So there's a lot that he likes about the Constitution, but then again, he's like, whoa, there is something missing, all right? And that is a Bill of Rights, all right? There's no Bill of Rights to protect freedom of religion, freedom of the press, all that kind of stuff. And I don't believe that nonsense, that kind of stuff can be protected without a Bill of Rights, okay? Let's not pretend that government's just going to respect what's in the Constitution and stay in those powers. She needs to have a Bill of Rights. Like, I would never be with anyone who didn't have a Bill of Rights, right? I mean, so when Jefferson's looking here, he's like, there's no Bill of Rights. And then, on top of the Bill of Rights, you look at the idea of rotation in office, which is a key idea of republicanism. And he says that there are no term limits. And especially for the executive, when you see that the original Constitution before the 22nd Amendment, 2 terms, 22nd, And the original Constitution said that the president can be reelected every 4 years on good behavior, as long as it doesn't screw up. And Jefferson says what we're looking at is really a life presidency. He says that when you put people in situations where they can get rid of the chief executive, they typically don't, even if the chief executive is unpopular. It's kind of a law of inertia. He says the Poles were able to get rid of their chief executive, but they never did. And so Jefferson's not really buying this. And of course, there is the idea that the Constitution was supposed to create a stronger central government than the Articles had created. Now, Jefferson isn't really into this sort of thing. You don't really hear him writing about this. In fact, he writes, "I own that I am not a friend of very energetic government. It is always oppressive. The late rebellion in Massachusetts has given more alarm than I think it should have done." So he says, look, all this overreaction to Shays' rebellion, all of this like, hey, we need more government, I'm not buying that nonsense for a minute. And he says, look, I'll tell you what's really important. Keep in mind that Jefferson's been in Paris. And he says, look, that as long as the people are chiefly agricultural, we will be virtuous for many centuries. And this will be as long as there shall be vacant lands in any part of America. When they get piled upon one another in large cities as in Europe, they will become corrupt as in Europe. So Jefferson says, first and foremost, doesn't really matter what the Constitution is or what plan of government we have if we are not chiefly agricultural. And this is going to be something that plays into the love story later on, because you might recall, of course you may not know this yet, but when Jefferson makes the Louisiana Purchase, it's like, well, is it clearly in the Constitution? I mean, am I kind of cheating on her? And it's like, well, agriculture. And so we see this. I mean, really, through looking at this correspondence, we can see Jefferson's initial reaction to one of the great loves of his life. Subscribe if you haven't already. TomRichey.net, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all of that good stuff. Till next time.